The heartbeat filled the examination room in quick, uneven bursts. Evelyn Marlowe stared at the pale image on the monitor, one hand curved beneath her 8-month belly. On the screen, her son's small fingers rested beside his face. She had seen him move during every previous scan. Today, he seemed strangely still. Dr. Mara Quinn moved the probe again, her expression tightening. "His heart rate is recovering," she said. "But you're having contractions." Evelyn forced herself to breathe. "They barely hurt. That doesn't make them harmless." Mara removed her gloves and reached for the medical file. The sharp smell of antiseptic mixed with the lavender oil Evelyn used for nausea. "You're 33 weeks. Your cervix has started opening, and the baby has dropped lower than he should." Mara pressed a red stamp onto the first page. "You're at high risk for preterm labor." The words seemed to drain the warmth from the room. "Can you stop it?" "We can try. You need bed rest, medication, and a healer near you at all times." Mara handed her the file and the ultrasound picture. "Tell Alpha Adrian immediately. The royal nursery must prepare an incubator before tonight." Evelyn looked at the tiny hand on the photograph. Adrian had missed the last 3 appointments because of council business. She had defended him each time. "He'll come," she said. Mara's eyes softened, though she did not answer. Rain struck the palace windows when Evelyn returned to the royal wing. Each step tightened the pressure low in her abdomen, but she kept moving. She wanted Adrian to hear the news from her, not from a healer or council messenger. Their bedroom door stood partly open. A woman laughed inside. Evelyn stopped. She knew that voice. Celeste Rowan had returned to Silvercrest 2 weeks earlier, claiming raiders had forced her from the northern estates. Adrian had called her presence temporary. Evelyn pushed the door open. Adrian's shirt lay near the bed. Celeste sat beneath the dark blankets, her bare shoulders exposed, one hand resting beside the Silvercrest Luna ring. Adrian turned sharply. Guilt crossed his face before irritation covered it. "Evelyn." The medical file slipped against her palm. Celeste drew the blanket higher. She looked frightened, but beneath that expression lived a flash of satisfaction. She had wanted this door opened. Evelyn's gaze moved from the ring to her husband. "How long?" Adrian stepped toward her. "You shouldn't be walking around alone." "That wasn't my question." Celeste lowered her eyes. "We didn't mean for you to find out this way." Evelyn almost laughed. The woman had worn her perfume and entered her bed, yet still wanted credit for regret. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Celeste's father controls the Northern Alliance. Her return changes our position. You slept with her for a treaty? It isn't that simple. It rarely is when the truth makes you look small." A cramp seized Evelyn before Adrian could respond. Her fingers crushed the ultrasound photograph. She gripped the doorframe, waiting for the pain to pass. Adrian noticed her pale face. "What's wrong?" She raised the file. "I came to tell you our son may be born tonight." His eyes dropped to the red warning stamp. Blood warmed the inside of Evelyn's thigh. Celeste saw it too. Panic flickered across her face, followed by calculation. She gave a weak gasp and collapsed against the pillows. "Adrian." He turned instinctively and caught her. Evelyn watched her husband gather his former lover into his arms, while blood from the mother of his child reached the stone floor. "Evelyn, wait," he said. But he did not release Celeste. She removed the Luna ring from the bedside table. For 7 years, it had marked her place beside him. Now it felt cold. She set it on the floor between them. "I won't ask twice to be chosen." Then she walked away, carrying the medical file against her belly while Adrian remained beside another woman. At the end of the corridor, Evelyn pressed her hand over her son. "Move for me," she whispered. Nothing answered beneath her palm. For the first time that day, Evelyn could not feel Finn move. Evelyn reached the private healing room before her knees gave way. She caught the edge of the examination table, lowering herself carefully as another contraction tightened across her abdomen. The room smelled of dried rosemary, alcohol, and the bitter tonic Dr. Mara had prescribed weeks ago. Usually, those scents steadied her. Tonight, they reminded her that the healer, who had warned her not to suffer emotional distress, was several floors away. Blood marked the inside of Evelyn's dress. She locked the door. "Finn," she whispered, pressing both hands against her belly. "Please." There was no movement. Panic rose into her throat, hot and suffocating, but she forced it down. Fear could wait. Her son could not. Evelyn pulled open the medical cabinet and took out a wooden listening horn, a bottle of contraction suppressant, and clean cloth. Her fingers shook so badly that the bottle struck the table twice before she opened it. She swallowed the measured dose, then lay on her left side and pressed the listening horn against her stomach. Nothing. She moved it lower. A faint beat answered. Fast. Fragile. Alive. Evelyn closed her eyes. One tear slipped across the bridge of her nose and fell onto the sheet beneath her. A second followed before she wiped her face with the back of her hand. That's enough, she told herself. Finn needed a mother who could think. She cleaned the blood, changed into a dark wool dress, and wrapped a support band beneath her belly. Every movement had to be slow. The contractions were now 12 minutes apart. If the medicine failed, she would not have much time. A knock sounded against the door. Evelyn. Adrian. Her body responded before her mind did. The mate bond pulled toward him, aching for the comfort it had been trained to seek for 7 years. Then the scent of Celeste's perfume drifted beneath the door, clinging to his clothes. The bond recoiled. Open the door, Adrian said. Evelyn continued packing medical supplies into a leather satchel. Dr. Mara said I may give birth tonight. I saw the file. You saw the blood. No answer came. Evelyn stopped moving. On the other side of the door, Adrian stared at the dark red stain left on his palm when he had briefly touched the floor outside their bedroom. He had told himself Evelyn was walking, so she could not be in immediate danger. He had told himself Celeste had collapsed without warning. Neither excuse survived the question. Celeste is resting, he said at last. I've sent for a healer. For hair? She could be carrying an heir. The words landed more cleanly than a blade. Evelyn placed 3 bottles of medicine into the satchel. And the child inside me? You're twisting this. I asked a simple question. Adrian pressed his hand against the door. His wolf paced beneath his skin, disturbed by Evelyn's fading scent and the uneven rhythm of her breathing. The council meets at dawn, he said. Until we determine Celeste's position, you will remain in the royal wing. Evelyn looked toward the narrow cabinet beside the fireplace. Behind it was an emergency passage built during the border wars. She had redesigned the route herself, so injured mothers and children could be evacuated if the palace fell. Now she would use it to escape her husband. Am I your wife? She asked. Or a womb the council must guard? Don't speak like that. Then give me another reason. Adrian had one. Fear. He was afraid the Northern Alliance would collapse if Celeste left. He was afraid the council would call him weak. He was afraid Evelyn would force him to choose publicly. He had not expected her to make the choice for him. Stay where you are, he commanded, letting the alpha frequency enter his voice. Pressure struck Evelyn's bones, but the damaged mate bond weakened its hold. She remained standing. No, she heard his breath catch. Evelyn took the Mother's Sanctuary document from the locked drawer. The parchment bore the seals of Silvercrest and Blackthorn, an agreement older than Adrian's crown. She folded it beside the ultrasound file, packed her mother's silver dagger, and lifted the cabinet latch. Stone scraped softly against stone. Outside, Adrian stepped away from the door when a council guard approached. Your Majesty, the guard said. Lady Celeste is asking for you. Adrian looked once at Evelyn's locked door. Then he followed the guard. His footsteps receded along the corridor. Evelyn stood motionless until she could no longer hear them. Some foolish, wounded part of her had expected him to return, to knock again, to call Dr. Mara, to choose differently when given one final chance. He did not. She entered the passage and pulled the cabinet closed behind her. Cold water covered the tunnel floor. Evelyn moved slowly, one hand against the wall and the other beneath her belly. The southern route should have opened near the Healer Gardens, but when she reached the iron gate, a fresh royal chain had been wrapped through its bars. The council had sealed it. Another contraction folded her forward. She bit down on her sleeve until the pain eased. Only one route remained, the abandoned northern tunnel beneath the old watchtower. It was longer, partially flooded, and ended near the forest patrol line. Evelyn turned north. Behind her, stone shifted. A lantern beam cut through the darkness. Luna Evelyn? A tracker called. The Alpha ordered you to remain inside. She gripped her mother's dagger and stepped deeper into the freezing water. Then the tracker lifted his head, caught the scent of her blood, and began to run. The tracker's boots struck the flooded tunnel behind Evelyn. She gathered her skirt with one hand and pushed north through the freezing water. The lantern beam swept across the curved stone walls, catching the blood she had left on the iron gate. "Luna, Evelyn, stop," the tracker shouted. "You're under royal protection." Protection. The word almost made her stumble. Another contraction tightened around her spine. Evelyn pressed her palm beneath her belly and kept moving. Finn's heartbeat had been weak, but it was there. She would not let Adrian's orders turn her child into a prisoner of the crown. The tunnel divided ahead. The right passage led toward the old watchtower. The left ended at a collapsed storage chamber. Evelyn pulled a packet of dried fever leaf from her satchel, crushed it between her fingers, and threw half into the left passage. Its sharp scent spread through the damp air, masking her blood. She slipped right and crouched behind a broken stone support. The tracker reached the divide seconds later. He inhaled, then followed the stronger scent toward the collapsed chamber. Evelyn waited until his lantern disappeared. She moved again. The northern exit opened beneath the roots of a dead oak. Rain hit her face as she climbed into the forest, cold enough to steal her breath. Behind her, the palace towers rose above the trees, their windows glowing gold. For 7 years, that light had meant home. Tonight, it marked the place where her husband had watched her bleed and chosen not to follow. A violent pull tore through the mate bond. Evelyn gasped and gripped the tree trunk. Heat, perfume, and Adrian's conflicted desire flashed through the damaged connection. He was near Celeste again. Her wolf recoiled so sharply that pain burst behind Evelyn's ribs. "No," she whispered. "You don't get to call me back while touching her." She pressed 2 fingers to the pulse in her neck, controlled her breathing, and continued toward Ashen Pass. The rain erased her tracks, but it also turned the forest floor into black mud. Evelyn slipped twice. The second fall drove her knee into a root and sent a cramp across her abdomen. Warm fluid ran down her legs. Her water had broken. She leaned against a pine, fighting the urge to scream. The contractions were less than 5 minutes apart now. Ashen Pass lay beyond the ridge, but she could no longer feel her toes. A horn sounded in the distance. Not Silver Crest. 3 low notes answered by 1 sharp call. Blackthorn patrol code. Evelyn stepped from the trees and saw dark banners moving through the rain. Wolves in black armor surrounded a covered medical wagon. At their center rode a tall man on a gray war horse, his coat soaked across the shoulders. Alpha King Ronan Vale, Adrian's greatest rival. Ronan had expected to meet a Silvercrest informant carrying evidence of stolen medicine. He had not expected to find Evelyn Marlowe standing in the road with blood on her dress and an ultrasound photograph crushed against her chest. His expression hardened. Who did this? No time. Evelyn's knees buckled. Ronan dismounted before she reached the ground. He caught her carefully, one arm beneath her shoulders, the other supporting her belly. Her scent told him enough. Labor, blood loss, fear, and the fading trace of moonbane. "Bring the healer," he ordered. A Blackthorn guard hesitated. "She's Adrian Voss's Luna." Evelyn pulled the folded parchment from her satchel with shaking fingers. "Mother's sanctuary," she said. Ronan took the document, saw both royal seals, and raised his voice so every witness could hear. "Evelyn Marlowe and her unborn child are under Blackthorn protection. Any wolf who attempts to remove them commits an act of war." The guard lowered his head. Ronan carried Evelyn into the medical wagon. The healer cut away the blood-soaked fabric and checked the child's position. Her face lost color. "The baby is coming. We won't reach the fortress." "Then deliver him here," Evelyn said. The wagon lurched forward as the storm battered its canvas roof. Ronan remained near the door, holding the ultrasound photograph away from the rain while the healer prepared clean cloths. Evelyn's body shook with each contraction. "Save my son," she told them. "We save both," Ronan replied. "You can't promise that." "No, but I can make sure no one abandons you while we try." The next pain tore a cry from her throat. Minutes blurred into blood, thunder, and the healer's clipped instructions. Evelyn used what strength remained to guide the birth, recognizing when the child's shoulder caught and forcing herself to change position. Then Finn entered the world. He was frighteningly small. He did not cry. The healer rubbed his back, cleared his mouth, and listened for breath. "His lungs aren't opening." Evelyn tried to rise. "The stimulant." Use the silver vial. The healer searched the emergency case. Once, twice. Her hands stopped. The compartment is empty. Ronan looked toward the locked medicine chest. Someone had removed the one drug a premature child would need. Evelyn reached for Finn, but darkness crowded her vision. "Breathe for him," she whispered. The healer began compressions, while Ronan held the tiny mask over the child's face. The wagon doors opened as they reached Healer Fortress, and guards rushed forward with a moonstone incubator. Ronan lifted Finn himself and ran. Behind him, Evelyn lost consciousness before hearing a single sound from her son. When the fortress doors closed, Finn's heartbeat vanished from the monitoring stone. Evelyn woke to blue light and an empty space beside her. For one disoriented second, she thought she was still in the medical wagon, listening for a cry that never came. Then pain rolled through her abdomen, deep and raw, and the scent of crushed cedar told her she was inside Blackthorn's Healer Fortress. Her hand flew to her flattened belly. The movement pulled at the stitches below her ribs, and a sharp gasp escaped before she could stop it. A healer crossed the room, but Evelyn caught the woman's sleeve with surprising force. "My son, where is he?" The healer opened her mouth, yet no answer came quickly enough. Ronan entered before panic could turn into violence. He carried no crown and wore no armor, only a dark shirt with dried blood at one cuff. "He is alive," he said. His heart stopped for 36 seconds. The healers brought him back. Evelyn's grip loosened, but her face did not. "Take me to him." "You cannot walk," the healer warned. "Then find wheels." Ronan looked at Evelyn's colorless face, the tremor in her arms, and the stubbornness holding her upright. He did not tell her to rest. He brought a narrow chair from the corridor, lifted her only after she nodded, and carried the ultrasound photograph in his free hand. The moonstone nursery hummed behind a glass wall. Finn lay inside a silver-framed incubator, his chest rising under a web of thin tubes. He was smaller than the blankets beneath him. Evelyn pressed her palm to the glass. Her lips moved around his name, but no sound came. She had saved dying warriors without trembling. Now, she could not touch her own child. "When can I hold him?" she asked. The senior healer lowered her gaze. "Not until his lungs stabilize." Evelyn nodded once. Only Ronan saw her fingers curl against the glass until the knuckles whitened. He set the ultrasound picture beside the incubator, blood-stained corner facing down, and moved back far enough to give her grief some privacy. By afternoon, 4 Blackthorn elders had assembled in the fortress council room. Evelyn sat wrapped in a gray blanket, too weak to stand. Elder Corvin placed a sealed message from Silvercrest on the table. "Adrian Voss demands the return of his Luna and heir. Keeping them here invites war. Returning them may invite murder," Ronan replied. Corvin's eyes shifted toward Evelyn. "We do not know whether she crossed our border by accident or design. Silvercrest's signatures appear on the stolen medicine orders." Evelyn's body was exhausted, but her mind sharpened. "Then investigate me. Check every signature, every shipment, every healer who handled those crates. But do not hand my son to the man who watched me bleed." A murmur moved around the table. Ronan unfolded the parchment Evelyn had carried through the storm. Both royal seals remained visible despite the water damage. "Mother's sanctuary grants her 90 days of protection," he said. "Any forced removal is an act of war. Blackthorn will honor the law, even if Silvercrest's king has forgotten it." Ronan did not look at Evelyn when he spoke. That restraint unsettled her more than a dramatic pledge would have. He was protecting a law, not claiming a woman. Corvin finally lowered his chin. 90 days. She cooperates with our investigation. She will decide what she shares, Ronan said. Evelyn cut between them. "I will share everything that keeps Finn alive." Back in her room, Evelyn asked for the medical bag recovered from the wagon. Her silver dagger remained inside, along with the sanctuary paper and one unopened bottle of prenatal tonic. The missing lung stimulant bothered her, but the tonic frightened her more. A bitter metallic smell clung beneath the herbs, faint enough to escape an ordinary healer. She requested blackroot solution, a moonstone dish, and a clean dropper. The senior healer frowned. "You lost too much blood to work. I am not lifting a sword." Evelyn steadied the bottle between both hands. "I am finding out why my body tried to deliver a healthy child 7 weeks early. Ronan remained at the doorway, silent and watchful. One drop of tonic struck the solution. The liquid stayed clear for 3 heartbeats. Then dark veins spread through the dish. The healer inhaled sharply. Evelyn knew the reaction. Moonbane weakened a wolf slowly, hiding beneath fatigue, nausea, and pregnancy pain. Someone had been poisoning her for weeks. She looked toward the nursery, voice cold. "Find who touched my medicine." The Moonbane report remained on the table between Evelyn and Ronan. Black veins still stained the testing dish. The sight made Evelyn's stomach turn harder than the contractions ever had. For weeks, she had swallowed that tonic every morning, believing it protected Finn. Someone inside Silvercrest had measured poison into her cup and watched her thank them for it. Ronan closed the recovery room door. "You need rest. I need names. You need enough blood in your body to remain conscious." Evelyn reached for the stolen medicine ledger beside him. Her hand trembled before touching the cover. She hated that he noticed. "Sit," Ronan said. That sounded like an order. It was a suggestion wearing armor. Despite herself, Evelyn gave him a tired look. Ronan dragged a chair closer rather than arguing. Once she sat, he opened the ledger and turned it toward her. 3 shipments of prenatal medicine had crossed Ashen Pass during the past 2 months. Each had been approved under Evelyn's name. She studied the signatures. "These aren't mine. They resemble yours. They were copied from winter supply orders. I stopped forming the letter M like this after I injured my hand last year." Ronan looked at the faint scar near her thumb. He had noticed details before, but never used them to make her feel exposed. He simply marked the discrepancy. A knock interrupted them. Isla Vale entered carrying a covered bowl and a folded blanket. Ronan's younger sister had the same dark eyes as her brother, though warmth lived openly in hers. "You look terrible," Isla told Evelyn. "Your kingdom's hospitality remains unmatched." "Good. Sarcasm means you're not dying." Ronan took the bowl from Isla and placed it beside Evelyn. "She needs food. She needs fewer people discussing her as if she isn't here," Evelyn said. Isla smiled. "I remember that voice." Evelyn frowned. 6 years ago, the fever camp near Hollow Creek. The memory returned slowly. Smoke-filled tents, children burning with silver fever, Adrian ordering Silvercrest healers not to treat Blackthorn wolves until negotiations ended. Evelyn had crossed the neutral line anyway. Isla pulled back her sleeve, revealing a pale scar along her forearm. "You stayed beside me for 2 nights. You threatened to break a councilman's fingers when he tried to remove my medicine. He was contaminating the instruments. He still complains when it rains." Ronan's mouth almost curved. Evelyn looked between them. "That was you?" "I was 17 and convinced I was immortal," Isla said. "You proved otherwise." After Isla left, silence settled over the room. "You remembered," Evelyn said. Ronan stood near the window, rain tracing the glass behind him. "My sister lived because you disobeyed your king. Adrian called it reckless. I called it a debt. That is why you were at Ashen Pass?" "Partly." Ronan returned to the table and unfolded a route map. Black ink connected Silvercrest's Royal Pharmacy to 3 neutral warehouses and 2 Blackthorn border clinics. "Someone has been moving Moonbane under healer seals," he said. "My patrol intercepted 1 shipment. Your name appeared on the authorization, so I arranged a meeting with a Silvercrest informant. You were coming to warn me. I was bringing evidence. My convoy was attacked before the meeting point." Evelyn traced the route with 1 finger. "Who knew where you were going?" 3 officers and 1 council clerk. Then one of them reported to Silvercrest, or to someone who wants both kingdoms blaming each other. A soft chime came from the nursery. Evelyn tried to stand too quickly. Pain cut across her abdomen, and Ronan caught her elbow without pulling her closer than necessary. "Finn?" she asked. "Stable," the healer called from the adjoining room. "He's awake." Ronan pushed Evelyn's chair to the glass wall. Finn lay beneath the moonstone light, his tiny face turned toward them. 1 hand moved weakly above the blanket. The healer opened a narrow access panel so Evelyn could place 2 fingers inside. Finn's hand closed around the tip of one. Evelyn bowed her head, fighting tears. Ronan stood behind her until the healer asked him to steady a loose breathing tube. He reached inside carefully. Finn released Evelyn and wrapped his fingers around Ronan instead. Neither adult moved. The Alpha King, who had terrified half the northern territories, stared at the premature child, holding him as though the smallest movement might break something sacred. Evelyn watched his expression soften. Then Ronan's officer entered with another ledger page. "My king, we confirm the payment route." Ronan laid the page beside Evelyn. The forged authorization bore her name. Beneath it sat Adrian Voss's royal seal. Someone had not only poisoned Evelyn, they had made certain the evidence would lead back to her husband. The first alarm bell rang before sunrise. Evelyn woke in the chair beside Finn's incubator, her neck stiff and one hand still resting against the glass. A second bell followed, then a third, short, urgent strikes reserved for outbreaks inside Blackthorn territory. Ronan entered the nursery already dressed for council. "Silver fever," he said. 23 cases in the eastern settlement. 7 are children. Evelyn pushed herself upright. "You are not leaving this room," Ronan added. That sounded less like armor and more like an order. "You tore your stitches yesterday, and 23 people are waiting for someone to decide whether they deserve medicine." Ronan's jaw tightened, but he brought her coat. The Blackthorn council chamber smelled of wet wool and smoke. 4 pack leaders argued over a map while messengers moved between the doors. "Seal the eastern gate," Elder Corvin demanded. "No one enters or leaves until the infected are dead or recovered." "There are nearly 400 residents behind that gate," Evelyn said. Every head turned. She stood beside Ronan with one hand braced against the table. Her body still felt hollow from blood loss, but the numbers on the reports were clear. Corvin frowned. "This is a Blackthorn matter." "Then stop handling it badly." Ronan lowered his gaze, hiding the brief movement at the corner of his mouth. Evelyn pointed to the settlement map. "Silver fever spreads through blood, shared water, and contaminated instruments. Closing one gate without separating the sick will trap healthy families beside infected patients." "What do you suggest?" Ronan asked. "Divide the settlement into 3 zones. Move the sickest patients to the old forge. Turn the schoolhouse into a recovery ward. Boil every water barrel. Burn contaminated bedding, not homes." A healer placed the inventory report in front of her. Evelyn scanned it once. "You don't have enough fever tonic." "We have moonstone reserves," Ronan said. "Your elders sealed them for wartime." Corvin folded his arms. "They are not for common illness. Children choking on their own blood qualifies as war." No one answered. Ronan removed the black iron key from his neck and set it before Evelyn. "Open the reserve." By noon, the eastern settlement had become a disciplined storm. Steam rolled from iron cauldrons. Healers carried trays between buildings marked with white, gray, and black cloth. Wolves hauled contaminated mattresses into controlled fires, while Evelyn stood at the center of the old forge, assigning patients by symptoms. "Gray cloth for anyone still walking," she ordered. "Black for breathing failure. Do not reuse needles. Do not let frightened parents cross between wards." A young healer stared at a coughing boy whose lips had begun to darken. Evelyn took the child's wrist. "Half a dose of night root, then moonstone vapor." "He's too small." "So was my son." The healer moved. Hours passed in heat, smoke, and the bitter scent of medicine. Evelyn ignored the pulling pain beneath her bandages until it sharpened enough to blur her sight. Ronan caught her against the edge of a table. "You are bleeding." She looked down. Red had spread through the fabric at her waist. "I can sit and continue." "You can sit and be examined." "Ronan." That one was an order. For once, she obeyed. From a chair near the doorway, Evelyn continued directing the wards, while a healer changed her bandage. She did not hide the pain or pretend strength meant invulnerability. She adjusted doses, corrected supply counts, and ordered fresh water sent from the northern wells. By nightfall, no new cases had appeared. The little boy from the forge opened his eyes. His mother dropped to her knees beside Evelyn and took her hand. She did not kiss it or call her savior. She simply pressed Evelyn's palm against her son's warm forehead. "He would be dead," the woman whispered. Evelyn looked toward the dark window, imagining Finn beneath the blue nursery light. "Then keep him alive tomorrow." Outside the forge, dozens of Blackthorn wolves waited in silence. Ronan stepped forward carrying a silver healer seal. It had belonged to the last queen of Blackthorn and had remained locked away for 18 years. He fastened it to Evelyn's coat. "By authority of the crown, Evelyn Marlowe now commands Blackthorn's healer network." Corvin did not object. Before the crowd could disperse, a guard arrived, carrying a split medicine crate. "My king, we found this in the infected well house." Inside were tonic bottles, stamped with Evelyn's forged signature. One shattered bottle carried the same metallic scent as Moonbane. The outbreak had been planted. Ronan turned toward the gathered leaders, but 3 of them were already moving. One by one, they placed their pact tokens at Evelyn's feet, not as payment, as nomination. Before midnight, Evelyn Marlowe's name had been entered for the Queen's Oath. Silvercrest's healer hall had never been quiet, but Adrian had never heard it sound this lost. 3 wounded border wolves waited on benches, while junior healers argued over dosage charts. 2 storage cabinets stood open and nearly empty. A mother paced beside a feverish child, demanding to know why the night-route shipment had not arrived. "Where is the reserve inventory?" Adrian asked. The head healer swallowed. "Luna Evelyn kept the master codes, then retrieve her records. We tried. Half the ledgers use a cipher only she and Dr. Mara understood." Adrian stared at the rows of unfinished forms. Evelyn had once briefed him every morning on medicine, food, and recovery numbers. He had listened while signing military orders, often telling her to summarize faster. Now no one could tell him how many patients Silvercrest could treat through winter. Beta Elias entered, carrying reports from the Western Packs. Red Hollow withdrew from the supply agreement. Pine Watch is threatening to follow. On what grounds? They say Silvercrest cannot guarantee medicine or grain. Adrian looked around the hall. For the first time, the accusation did not sound political. It sounded accurate. By evening, the great hall had been prepared for Celeste's Luna recognition. She wore silver silk and kept her left hand hidden beneath a lace glove. The council had insisted the ceremony would restore confidence before rumors about Evelyn spread further. Adrian stood beside the ancestral altar, unable to stop seeing blood on the bedroom floor. Elder Garrick presented the Luna ring. "This relic recognizes the woman chosen to stand beside the crown," he announced. Celeste smiled at Adrian. "We should not delay." The ring had belonged to Evelyn for 7 years. Adrian remembered placing it on her finger beneath the winter moon. She had been nervous, though she had hidden it by correcting the priest's wording. Celeste removed her glove. Garrick slid the ring onto her finger. For 1 heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the moonstone turned black. Celeste screamed. Smoke curled from beneath the silver band as it burned into her skin. She tore it free and dropped it onto the altar. Wolves recoiled while the scent of scorched flesh spread through the hall. "She cursed it," Celeste gasped. "Evelyn knew I would replace her." Adrian looked at the ring. "No," he said. The single word silenced the room. Celeste's face tightened. "What?" Evelyn left without knowing this ceremony would happen. Garrick stepped forward. "Grief can make a discarded Luna dangerous." Adrian's wolf rose beneath his skin, not in defense of Celeste, but at the word discarded. He had used no such word. He had behaved as if it were true. Later, Elias found Adrian inside Evelyn's private office. The room still carried faint traces of rosemary and rain. Her chair stood pushed beneath the desk. A half-finished list of nursery supplies lay beside an unopened letter. Elias placed a copied medical file in front of him. Dr. Mara sent this to the Royal Clinic archive before she disappeared. Adrian read the first page. 33 weeks. Cervical changes. Immediate support required. Prepare for possible premature delivery. The appointment time was marked at 4:17. Evelyn had entered the royal wing at 5. Adrian had been with Celeste. He turned the page and found the ultrasound image. A tiny hand rested beside Finn's face. The edge of the copy showed a dark stain. "Blood." "She came to tell me," Adrian said. Elias did not soften the truth. "Yes." Adrian sat in Evelyn's chair. The crown suddenly felt heavy enough to break his neck. "When did the child survive?" Blackthorn released no official statement, but one of our scouts saw a moonstone nursery through the fortress windows. Elias placed a grainy surveillance image on the desk. A premature infant lay inside an incubator. Evelyn sat beside the glass, pale and thin. Ronan Vale stood behind her, with one hand resting on the chair. Adrian's fingers tightened around the image. "My son. The child is registered as Finn Marlowe, not Voss. Marlowe, a surname chosen by the mother Adrian had failed to protect." The office door opened. Celeste entered with her burned hand wrapped in white cloth. "You should be resting," Adrian said. "So should you." She placed a hand over her abdomen. "Stress is dangerous for our baby." Adrian's gaze dropped. "Dr. Mara will examine you." Celeste went still. "She is missing." Then another healer. "No." The answer came too quickly. Adrian rose. "Why not?" Celeste stepped backward. "After what Evelyn did to the ring, I trust no one from her healer network." She left before he could stop her. Elias waited until the door closed. "I searched her rooms after the ceremony." He set a padded bundle on the desk and unfolded it. Inside lay a shaped false belly, stained with adhesive. Beside it was a small glass vial. Adrian removed the stopper. A bitter metallic scent rose from the liquid, the same scent that had clung to Evelyn's medicine cabinet. Celeste had never carried his child, and someone had been poisoning the woman who did. The security crystal arrived before noon, wrapped in Elias Reed's blood-stained cloak. A Blackthorn scout placed it on the war room table, beside 3 pages torn from Silvercrest's royal ledger. Ronan broke the wax seal, while Evelyn watched from the opposite side, one hand resting near the healer emblem pinned to her coat. "Elias says Adrian has discovered Celeste's false pregnancy," Ronan said. "He no longer trusts his counsel. That realization came after he watched me bleed." Ronan did not defend him. He placed the crystal inside a moonstone frame. Pale light spread across the wall, forming the blurred image of Silvercrest's medicine vault. Celeste appeared first. She wore a healer's cloak and carried a key marked with Garrick Rowan's private seal. After checking the corridor, she removed Evelyn's prenatal bottles from a locked cabinet. She replaced them with identical glass containers taken from a black case. The image shifted. Garrick entered later and handed a ledger to the royal pharmacist. Adrian's seal was already pressed into the authorization space, but Evelyn immediately saw the defect. "The lower claw is reversed," she said. "His real seal curves inward." Ronan examined the impression. "A duplicate, good enough to start a war." The final image showed Celeste holding one of Evelyn's original bottles over a drain. Evelyn remained still until the recording ended. "How long?" she asked. Ronan understood the question. "The ledger traces Moonbane shipments back 11 weeks. 11 weeks of nausea. 11 weeks of dizziness Adrian had dismissed as part of pregnancy. 11 weeks of Finn struggling against poison, while Evelyn thanked Celeste for bringing tea to council meetings. Her fingernails pressed into the table. "You knew someone was targeting my medicine." "I knew Moonbane was moving through Silvercrest," Ronan replied. "I did not know you were taking it. You came to Ashen Pass with evidence." "Yes, and you waited until now to show me all of it." Ronan's shoulders hardened. "I needed to confirm Elias was not feeding us forged records. That should have been my decision. You were unconscious. Then your son was dying. And when I woke, the room went quiet." Ronan had faced armies without lowering his gaze. Now he looked directly at Evelyn and accepted the wound beneath her anger. "I decided what you could endure," he said. "That was wrong." No excuse followed. He pushed the crystal, the ledger pages, and Elias's message toward her. "You control the evidence now. You decide whether it goes to the council, Adrian, or the fire." Evelyn covered the crystal with her palm. "Prepare copies. Every kingdom gets one." A horn sounded from the courtyard. The Queen's oath was beginning. Blackthorn's Hall of Oaths had been carved into the mountain long before either kingdom existed. 4-pack banners hung above a circular stone floor. At its center stood a low altar bearing the Queen's seal, a disk of white moonstone surrounded by iron thorns. Evelyn wore no jeweled gown. Her dark coat concealed the healing wound across her abdomen, and the silver healer emblem rested above her heart. Finn remained in the nursery beneath Isla's protection. Ronan stopped beside the altar but did not touch Evelyn. "The oath cannot be commanded," the lawkeeper announced. "No alpha, mate bond, or council may force acceptance." One by one, 3-pack leaders placed their tokens around the seal. Evelyn stepped forward. A crash sounded above them. Every moonstone lamp went dark. Glass rained onto the floor. Ronan shifted before the first assassin landed, his wolf tearing through his clothing as guards drew blades around the altar. A second attacker threw a silver chain across the doorway, blocking the escape route. Then the nursery alarm began ringing. Evelyn's blood turned cold. "Finn." Isla's voice came through the mind link, broken by static. "West Passage," they breached. The connection vanished. Ronan killed the nearest attacker and turned toward Evelyn. "Stay with the guards." She pulled her mother's silver dagger from beneath her coat. "My son is behind that wall. The oath gives you command of every soldier here. Then open the western passage." Evelyn remembered the fortress plans she had studied during the fever outbreak. She led 2 guards through a storage corridor, while Ronan fought toward the nursery entrance. Smoke filled the western hall. Ela emerged carrying 2 children, blood running from her temple. "They took Finn," she gasped. One of them wore a Silvercrest guard uniform. A service gate stood open to the rain. Beyond it, riders were already moving toward Ashen Pass. Ronan reached Evelyn, his hands stained with an assassin's blood. "If you finish the oath, Blackthorn's army becomes yours to command." Every instinct screamed for Evelyn to run after Finn herself. But one wounded woman on horseback could not stop trained killers. She returned to the altar. With the nursery alarm still ringing, Evelyn placed both hands on the Queen's seal. "I accept power to protect," she said, "not to possess. I accept the crown, but no man owns the woman beneath it." White fire spread through the moonstone. Across the fortress, hundreds of Blackthorn wolves dropped to one knee. Evelyn opened her eyes as queen and ordered an army to bring her son home. Blackthorn's army reached Ashen Pass before dawn. Evelyn rode at its center, wrapped in a dark cloak with the Queen's seal fastened at her throat. Every movement pulled at the wound across her abdomen, but she refused the carriage Ronan had ordered. Finn was somewhere beyond the ridge. Pain could wait. At the narrowest point of the pass, Silvercrest soldiers blocked the road. Adrian stood before them in black armor, his face stripped of the arrogance Evelyn remembered. His eyes found her crown first, then Ronan beside her. "Where is my son?" Evelyn demanded. Adrian flinched at the word "my." "Garrick took him," he said. "He crossed into the abandoned customs station an hour ago. Celeste helped his men pass the northern gate." "And your army let them?" "My council issued the order under my seal. Another seal you failed to protect." The accusation landed without a raised voice. Adrian accepted it. Ronan's horse moved closer to Evelyn's. "Scouts found 2 entrances. Garrick has archers on the roof." Adrian looked at him. "Silvercrest will lead the breach." "No," Evelyn said. Both Alpha Kings turned toward her. "Garrick wants you fighting each other. Blackthorn takes the eastern tunnel. Silvercrest closes the western road. No one attacks the central room until I give the order." Adrian's jaw tightened from habit, but he lowered his head. "As you command, Queen Evelyn." The title hurt him. She heard it anyway. The customs station smelled of mold, rust, and old blood. Evelyn entered behind Ronan's guard while arrows struck the outer walls. A child's cry echoed from the upper chamber. "Finn." She moved faster. Ronan caught her arm before she reached the stairs. "There is silver wire across the doorway." Evelyn saw the nearly invisible line and followed it to a row of oil jars hidden behind the wall. "A fire trap," she whispered. She cut the wire with her mother's dagger, then led the guards through a storage passage. They reached the upper chamber as Garrick backed toward a shattered window. Finn lay against his chest, wrapped in a Silvercrest banner. A knife rested beneath the infant's chin. Adrian entered from the opposite door. "Release him," he growled. Garrick smiled. "Sign the abdication order." Evelyn stepped into view. Finn's weak cry stopped when he heard her voice. "Give me my child. You lost the right to command Silvercrest when you chose Blackthorn." "I am not commanding Silvercrest." The Queen's seal caught the gray morning light. "I am commanding every wolf outside this room." Garrick's gaze shifted toward the window. Blackthorn archers covered the ridge. Silvercrest soldiers had turned their weapons away from Adrian and toward the council leader. His confidence cracked. He pressed the knife closer. Adrian lunged. The blade sliced across his shoulder instead of Finn's throat. Ronan seized Garrick, driving him into the stone floor, while Evelyn caught the child before the banner slipped from Adrian's arms. Finn was cold, too quiet. Evelyn opened his blanket, checked his breathing, and rubbed 2 fingers over his sternum. "Come back to me." A thin cry escaped him. Her knees almost failed. Ronan knelt beside her, shielding mother and child while the guards chained Garrick. Adrian remained against the wall, blood running beneath his armor. He had chosen Finn. For once, he had chosen correctly. It did not erase the night he had not. By sunset, representatives from 9 packs gathered inside the neutral Great Hall. Celeste stood beside her father in silver restraints. Dr. Mara, rescued from a council hunting lodge, sat near Elias with a bandage around her wrist. Evelyn placed each piece of evidence on the stone table. The ultrasound photograph stained with her blood, the medical warning Adrian had ignored, the bottle containing moonbane, the false belly found in Celeste's room, the royal ledger, the security crystal showing Celeste replacing Evelyn's medicine. Finally, Elias placed the rejected Luna ring beside them. No one needed a speech. Celeste stared at Adrian. "I did this for us. There was never an us worth killing my child for," he replied. The presiding lawkeeper asked Adrian whether he denied adultery, abandonment, or misuse of royal authority. Adrian looked at Evelyn. "I deny nothing." His voice broke on the final word. Later, when Finn stirred, Adrian approached slowly. "May I hold him?" Evelyn allowed it. The moment Adrian took Finn, the infant began to cry. His small hands searched blindly until Ronan stepped closer. Finn quieted when Ronan touched his blanket. Adrian's face collapsed, though he returned the child without protest. The lawkeeper opened the royal betrayal clause. As the injured Luna, the mother of the heir, and a recognized queen, Evelyn Marlowe alone may recommend Alpha Adrian's punishment. Every face turned toward her. Evelyn rose with Finn against her heart. "I do not ask for his life. I ask for every right he believed he owned." The royal betrayal clause lay open beneath Evelyn's hand. No one inside the neutral great hall moved. Finn slept against her shoulder, his breath warm but shallow beneath the blanket. Across the chamber, Adrian stood with one arm bandaged and his crown resting on the evidence table. For 7 years, Evelyn had believed that crown protected their family. Now it looked like nothing more than metal. "I request a complete severance of the mate bond," she said. "I retain sole guardianship of Finn until he reaches adulthood. Adrian may request supervised visits, but he will have no authority to remove our son from Blackthorn or name him heir without Finn's consent when he is old enough to choose." A murmur passed through the pack representatives. The lawkeeper looked toward Adrian. "Do you contest these terms?" Adrian's eyes remained on the child in Evelyn's arms. "No." Elder Garrick pulled against his restraints. "You cannot surrender the Voss heir to an enemy kingdom." Ronan did not react to the insult. Evelyn did. "Finn is not territory," she said. "He is not a treaty, a bloodline, or a prize for whichever Alpha shouts the loudest." Garrick sneered. "You speak like Blackthorn has not used you." Ronan stepped forward, but Evelyn raised one hand. "The difference is that Blackthorn asked what I wanted." Silence followed. The lawkeeper recorded the guardianship terms, then turned to Adrian again. "Your authority over Silvercrest will be restricted for 3 years. A reformed council led by Beta Elias Reed will control royal medicine, treasury access, and succession law. Do you accept?" Adrian removed the royal crest from his coat. The small silver wolf had been worn by every Voss king for 4 centuries. He placed it beside the Luna ring. "I accept." Celeste stared at him from across the hall. Her wrists were bound in silver, and the burn from the rejected ring remained wrapped beneath dirty bandages. "Adrian," she whispered. "Tell them Garrick forced me." Her father turned on her. "Be silent. You promised they would recognize me." Her voice rose. "You said Evelyn's child would die before anyone discovered the poison." The confession struck the hall harder than a scream. Garrick's face emptied. Dr. Mara closed her eyes. Adrian looked at Celeste as if seeing her without the memory of the girl he had once loved. "You chose every bottle," he said. "I chose us. There was never an us worth this." The council sentenced Garrick to permanent imprisonment beneath the Northern Court. His titles, lands, and voting seat were stripped from his bloodline. Celeste received no crown, no alliance, and no sympathetic exile. She was convicted of attempted murder, falsifying a royal pregnancy, and attacking Mother's sanctuary. The woman who had demanded recognition would spend the rest of her life known only by her prison number. When the hall emptied, only Evelyn, Adrian, Ronan, Finn, and the lawkeeper remained. The severance basin stood beneath an open section of roof. Moonlight touched the water inside it. Adrian approached first and cut his palm over the basin. Evelyn followed. Their blood met on the surface. The mate bond tightened around her ribs one final time. 7 years rushed through her body at once, Adrian's hand at their mating ceremony. The winter nights they had planned, Finn's nursery, Celeste's perfume, blood running down Evelyn's leg. Pain tore through her chest. Her knees bent. Ronan moved instinctively, then stopped before touching her. The choice remained hers. Evelyn steadied herself against the stone basin and stood upright. The bond snapped. Adrian staggered backward as though struck. Evelyn felt the empty place inside her, but the emptiness was clean. It did not pull. It did not command. "I am sorry," Adrian said. There was no demand behind the words, no promise that he would become worthy if she waited. Evelyn believed his regret. She simply no longer belonged to it. Months later, sunlight filled the newly restored eastern wing of Blackthorn's healer fortress. Rows of moonstone cradles lined the room, each prepared for premature infants from every pack, including Silvercrest. Finn no longer needed an incubator. He rested in Evelyn's arms, heavier now, his lungs strong enough to fill the hall with an offended cry whenever Isla took away his wooden wolf. Ronan entered carrying a frame. Inside was the blood-stained ultrasound picture. "I thought you might want this somewhere safe," he said. Evelyn placed it beside the Blackthorn healer seal, not beside her crown. Ronan looked toward Finn. "Adrian's visit was approved for next month." "I know. And us?" He asked it without confidence, command, or expectation. Evelyn studied the man who had protected her without imprisoning her, trusted her before loving her, and stayed beside Finn through every fragile breath. She reached for his hand. "I choose this," she said. "You, Finn, and the life we build without asking permission." Outside, Blackthorn's bells rang as the people gathered to welcome their queen. Evelyn walked toward them with her son in one arm, and Ronan beside her, not leading, not following. The woman who had fled Silvercrest with blood on her dress returned to the light carrying a child, a crown, and a future no one else could choose for her. So, Evelyn's story has finally reached its quiet place. Are you still here with me? She was betrayed when she was most vulnerable, misunderstood when she needed protection, and abandoned while carrying a child who depended on her every breath. She could have begged Adrian to choose her. She could have stayed and waited for an apology. She didn't. Evelyn left because staying would have cost her dignity. She carried her pain without pretending it didn't hurt. And she learned that choosing yourself is not selfish when everyone else keeps asking you to disappear. We cannot control who lies to us, who betrays us, or who recognizes our value too late. We can control what we do next. We can protect what matters, refuse to become cruel, and stop handing our future to people who already proved they could not hold it carefully. And honestly, a crown looks much better when it comes with respect instead of excuses. If Evelyn's journey reminded you that dignity is worth protecting, leave one word in the comments: dignity. And if this story stayed with you, please like, share it with someone who may need it, and subscribe for more stories about women who leave wounded, but return with their choices still their own. Dedict logo.